blasted all over it. But yeah, it's been fun. It's been fun. And like people like periodically stop by and be like, hey, I heard you were starting. I just want to say hi. And I'm like, this is really cool. Yeah, so it's been fun. But they really are. Yeah, they really are. And I think they've really been wanting someone in the position also. So I think it's like, yeah. Yeah, I've been before actually. Like we've had a conference together before, so I knew him. Yeah, but I didn't realize until I interviewed that it was him. You know what I mean? And then I was like, oh, okay, like cool. Like I actually know him. Right? Like that's better than being like, who's this shirt? You know? But it was pretty good. So it's just been a lot. Yeah, I did. I saw him today. He stopped by. He was going to stop by today. No, it's actually funny. I was like, oh my God, you know Emily. And he's like, yes, I do. But here's the funnier part too. So like, according to my favorite kid, he did a job there, so we traveled up there. His friend PJ also he started, so we stopped by him. And PJ's like, hey Nick, just sent out this job. And I was like, wait a minute. What Nick we talking about here? PJ's like, hey, he's like, I saw you eat. And I was like, you realize I just got a job there? And he was like, oh yeah, that's right. And I was like, wait, you know Nick? I was like, I know Nick. So I took this whole like, what? So I told Nick today the same thing. I was like, you know a lot of people that I know. So yeah.
No, it's kind of seems more like
Yeah, that's canceled. The only thing about this showing here is so inspection. And then it turns into an earworm. Does she sound like her there?
Okay. All right, everybody, gonna go ahead and come to order. It's 7:40. Hello. Thanks for making it out tonight. So right before spring break. I'm sure midterms for many of us. So shorter agenda this evening from our previous week's meeting. First order of business is the adoption of the agenda and the approval of those minutes that are up on the YouTube. So motion to adopt the agenda and approve those minutes.
Motion to adopt.
So motion is seconded. Second. All right. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. First item after that is speakers from the floor. We do have a speaker. Yeah, you can come on up. Avion Wilkins from the Black Bears Council. Avion, sorry. To speak with us about the Black Excellence Pre-Commencement Ceremony. So go ahead and turn it over for, start with about 5 minutes or so, and then if we need more time from there, we've got more time budgeted, so I'm happy to continue.
But hi everybody, good afternoon. My name is Avion Wilkins. I am the coordinator of Black Affairs Council. Black Affairs Council serves the majority of all Black students on campus. We help with advising students, supporting them. We have room for them to for free. We do have our annual commencement ceremony for all African American students on campus. That includes graduate students. So our Black Excellence ceremony is a pre-commencement ceremony, and it's an award-based ceremony where we give thanks to those who help our Black students on campus and to the students who have tremendous success in academics. So basically, we will give them an award. It's set up just like a ceremony. We provide food, and we give them a taste stove for their actual graduation the week after. So it's going to be May 3rd. You're going to have the time around 5 to 8. Here at the Student Center and in the ballrooms. So this event, we are expecting around 500 people to show up. Majority of them are graduates. And then we have faculty, staff, and community members and administrators. So we do have a budget proposal that I want to present to you guys, and I want to ask you guys' opinion opinion on it and see if you guys would like to sponsor our event. So the main things that we do have on here is our catering, and our speaker is gonna be William Davis. He's representative of Springfield. He's also an alumni from SIU, so we love to reach out to our alumni to come speak. Our room rentals are free, and we have equipment fees, stationery, like as far as graphic designer, training, photographer, and decorations. So I was gonna hand this over to Clay and to you guys, the finance committee, for you guys to review and see if you guys would love to sponsor an event like this to help our Black friends. I'm sorry.
For
Any questions?
Yes. Afiana, I'm going to ask you questions, just so that the group kind of see just some of the questions that we typically do ask.
Okay.
So here you have your overall total of the event being $13,637.50. Where within your other budget lines are you looking at resources for the event?
So the main budget, like the items that we need the most attention to right now is as far as decorations and stationery things. We are putting up $5,000 towards our own event, so you don't have to worry about us not looking towards there because we do have the money. But mostly decorations and stationery is where we need the most attention at.
And that would be a total, so those two things combined would be 1,700.
Yes.
You have, so you're putting 5,000 towards the event. Are you also looking at USG or any other additional sponsors?
So we reached out to the Multicultural Center. They were trying to cover our Kensington goals. For right now, we looked at it. It may be a little bit more than what we planned on. It's around like $7,000 for the Kensington goals, but they said that they would maybe cover that for us. So majority of it is covered. It was just the stationery and the decoration. We are paying for mostly the food. We did ask Jennifer Jones Hall to cover some things as far as the equipment fees and stuff. So she said that she will cover that as well.
Oh, yeah, yes, yes.
Any other questions?
Are you getting any funding from USG?
USG technically is not.
Okay.
So we are an umbrella organization under USG, and we get a yearly budget from them. We send them a budget, they give us money, we work with it. So that would be the $5,000 that we trigger to us. Yeah. Technically.
So this is also in association, is this also in association then with the Black Graduate Student Association?
Yeah, so we were working with them to gather all of our graduate students that are graduating. You know, they are getting up off the ground and making their organization more stable right now. So,
Sure, no, I usually, I do usually ask that, because one thing that we do evaluate as far as the allocation board is the mixture of both, like, is it something that serves just undergraduate students, just graduate students, or a mixture of both?
yeah.
So it sounds like the event itself will serve a mixture of both, both honoring the undergraduate students who will be graduating and also honoring our graduate students as well, who are the members of this association, and also kind of honoring them as they graduate in the spring semester.
Yeah.
And any of your alumni groups, are they also maybe pursuing?
Yeah, so Black Alumni Group has offered some money. We just don't know what that is just yet, but they said that they will be willing to set up the money. I'll reach out to everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, I don't know if anybody else has any questions. One thing that also, as far as like promotions of these events, when GPSC does sponsor events like this, we do also like to be honored and or mentioned. So if any like materials go out that are promoting the event, for GPSC to be included within that as sponsored by, in part by GPSC and or our logo on items, just to kind of show our support.
Yes, so on our program, normally we have a page that's just dedicated for everybody that is sponsored the event. We are also gonna be, I think it's on March 25th is when we will start promoting it. The application is gonna be released March 16th, and we're giving students until the 10th, so we will be notifying like people who are sponsoring our events, and like, trying to come up with a page to where we can put everybody's logos on one page so they can see it as well.
Okay, perfect.
GPSC in the past GPSC in the past has been recognized at all the many items you can see over here. I mean, I spoke at one, John Flowers, GPSC president. So GPSC has been well recognized for the event.
Any other questions? Thank you so much, guys.
Any other speakers from the floor? Questions? Announcements? Items? Nope. All right. We'll move on to our next item under old business. The GPSC's annual awards and volunteers for the review committees for those awards.
Yes, so thank you for everybody who signed up. I meant to send out a follow-up email earlier in the week, just we got kind of busy. But I'll be sending that out and kind of following up for everybody this week. Right now, we do have all that we need for our research award. The more the merrier. I was really just hoping to aim for at least 10 reviewers, and so I did beat that number. We do have a statutory number as far as our teacher report, but if anybody also did not get to volunteer for that, was interested in doing that, just come see me after, because that's one that we do have a little wiggle room for. And then if you did see these fancy new handouts that Clay had created, we do have extras of those, so please grab those on your way out. You might have also received the newsletter that came from the graduate school earlier today that was distributed to your department or unit, and that also had information about these awards. This is also active on our website, so if you go to gpsc at rso.edu or siu.edu, siu.edu, you can go to that, and the application board is where you'll be able to see the links for that applications. I did have a question, and this is in case you have someone who has questions for you. I was trying to think about like problems or questions that might arise so we can address in the room, so you can spread this on to your constituents and your groups. So there are some required materials. One of the ones that tend to be tricky every year is the letter of support from a faculty member. Some faculty members prefer to send that to me directly, but since it is a required document, I do prefer to leave that listed as required and noted as required within the application process where you submit. So if they have someone who wants to send it to me directly, they can. If they're having trouble loading anything, they can always send me their application directly. But if they are going to be loading that, they can always put in a blank document or a document that says letter of support coming from this individual at this email address. And because as long as any document is in there, it will process your full application. But it won't process your full application if that's the blank. So just make sure that you are adding just a blank, some sort of document that lets me know that it's on the way and who I can be expecting an email from. If that makes sense. But those are underway. You're going to start seeing some more promotions for those. And if you still really had your heart set on participating as a member of the research committee, I certainly will take more people. It's a really fun one to serve on because I can always sit it out and just be the pool chair and just watch everybody else enjoy the research they're reading. So just come see me afterwards, and for any reason you did not get to sign up last time. And I did discuss, if you want to discuss the service award, kind of explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, sure. I don't have the one sheet for that in front of me. Still working on something that's more of a graphic flyer for this one, as well as for our elections and just general membership information. But working on getting some university approved graphics for the service award double-sided, and that's the sense is with these to be double-sided, so that you have the one sheet and then the graphic thing on the front side, as well as then having those graphic ones to send to email, things like that. For the service awards, that poster flyer type backpack will be coming here soon. For the service awards, the website and everything is up. You do have the actual one sheet from the previous meeting, as well as I think I went out with the meeting reminder again this week. So, real quick overview. Right, the two service awards, Distinguished Service Award is intended to recognize those who, in the course of their work and duties, have done a distinguished job of what it is that they do in that responsibility, in that role, according to their obligations. Essentially, someone that has done a distinguished bit of work in the current role or a certain set of responsibilities that they have, or otherwise the duties that they have before them in that role. So the idea that someone in the course of doing their job has done just a particularly great job of that particular set of responsibilities, duties, responsibility, or distinguished. In contrast to the Outstanding Service Award being an individual who has done something that even goes beyond the scope of their particular duties, responsibilities, or obligations. So the idea that they've literally gone beyond what it is expected of them in whatever capacity that might be to do something that is particularly outstanding. So you can think about that as something that's actually reimagining the set of responsibilities or duties that are on someone in that position, going outside of any kind of set expectations that exist for someone in a position, or just going completely outside of what anyone's expectations are of an individual in any particular position or not, and recognizing them for that outstanding work, and outstanding service, and outstanding effort. That being sort of the distinguishing way that we'll look at those nominations. Again, right, someone can be nominated by individuals or a group or however that nomination is communicated, but in our executive board's review of those nominations, we may determine in our own discussions, right, the idea of, well, actually this person seems more qualified for selection of an outstanding or distinguished or vice versa. That's a general sense, and this is an opportunity, right, to recognize the awesome stuff that people do for graduate professional students every day across campus, within the community, within our own council, within your own department. It could be an RSO, it could be someone that is a faculty member in your department, it could be someone that works in professional staff, civil service staff, whatever that might be, that person that has made a considerable impact, whether in an official capacity or
Also, outstanding services that serve graduate students. Although they might serve multiple students or are multiple groups across campus and constituents, it's really the impact that they've had on graduate professional students. So I like giving examples. I think it's helpful. But we had an extraordinary gentleman that helped us out by conducting and using a lot of his free time, unpaid, to help us create a graduate student survey. That has been used and quoted both in graduate council and across campus, and really recognize the quality for which it was created. And so, hours and hours of his time unpaid to provide to us to be able to have a document that we can create to give a voice to students across campus.
It's going a few years back, but we had an alumnus volunteer hundreds of hours to help us develop a survey instrument. Great.
Motion's good, guy.
But so we're good on we need one more for meeting reviews?
Yeah, we can definitely have, if there's certainly room, we've met really the capacity, but I've certainly been having little things really want to.
Yeah.
We have enough people for the teaching award, but that's one that definitely we can invite others to join us participating.
Yeah, depending on like how
How
many
many
applications.
applicants,
Yeah, but we're looking good. That's
Yeah.
awesome. Well, thank you everyone for volunteering to be on the review committees and keep you posted. Any questions, discussion on that one? Keep moving. Cool. All right, so the next item is small business on the resolution for authorization of funds related to student creative activities, research forum, poster cost reimbursements. Now, I took the comments that came up in our discussion last week and tried to implement those changes in the way that it is resolved to authorize funding. For the revised resolution you have tonight, really the only thing that has changed on that is the resolve at the bottom. There's now only one resolve, and then you can see it is outlined according to the numbers and the letters and points. There's no question or discussion on this. I can go to just, I guess, perhaps a reading of the whole thing, or I can do just a reading of the therefore be it resolved that has changed. Yes?
I motion to accept without a full reading.
Motion to accept without a reading. Is that motion seconded?
Second. Go, Jay. Way to go, Jay.
Motion is seconded. All those in favor, is there any discussion on the waiving of the reading prior to a motion to vote on this voting to accept the resolution? I don't think we can do both. We're keeping them separate. So all those in favor of waiving the reading on the resolution prior to voting on accepting the resolution, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Seeing none opposed, the motion to waive the reading passes. Seeing no discussion, we'll move to a vote on resolution R 1920-09, authorization for a funding budget. All those in favor of adopting the resolution as written, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Seeing none opposed, motion passes. There we go, everybody. All right, so new business. Only bit of new business for this evening is nominations of candidates for GPSC officers and graduate council representatives. This would be for those assuming, apologies for this, assuming the role of these officers are President, Vice President for Administrative Affairs, and Vice President for Graduate School Affairs, and 4 additional representatives elected to represent graduate and professional students in graduate council for the next academic year, starting in fall 2020. With the exception, I guess, the presidents, we sort of hand off that in the end of May after spring semester. So, as your election commissioner, I'm going to start with a brief overview of the pertinent bylaws for the election in general, and then move on to particular aspects of each one of these positions as we open up the nominations of candidates for those specific elections, I guess. So to begin with, in the bylaws, you can find candidate qualifications under Section 3 of Article 3 on elections. So, candidate qualifications: candidates for the position of President, Vice President for Administrative Affairs, Vice President for Graduate School Affairs, and Graduate Council representatives must be graduate professional students enrolled and in good standing at SIUC for the term during which elections are conducted. These candidates need not be voting members of the GPSC during their candidacy. Nomination procedures. Candidates who wish to have their names appear on the printed ballots must be nominated at either of the 2 regularly scheduled GPSC meetings preceding the election meeting. Nominations must be moved and seconded by voting members of the GPSC. Nominees must be provided the opportunity to decline the nomination prior to ballot. Like all good documents, this stuff is all now right next to each other. So give me to reshuffle my papers. The elected officers of the GPSC shall be the president, vice president for administrative affairs, and vice president for graduate school affairs. And then either I haven't been able to find it, or we don't have a very good explanation of the graduate council representatives in the bylaws here. Yeah, that's what I thought. So, overview of the overview there for the nominating procedures, candidate qualifications, and those officer positions. Are there any questions, comments, recommendations? All right, seeing none, I'll move on to opening nominations for candidates for president. Can you find the right page here? So the president shall be the chief executive of GPSC and shall conduct the affairs of GPSC in accordance with this constitution, bylaws, and resolutions of the council. The president shall be responsible for notifying representatives of meetings, issuing an agenda for each meeting, and directs all committee appointments except committees as described under the bylaws. As the chief executive, vice presidents, and the office staff report to the president. That's good. The president shall receive at least a half-time graduate assistantship. With that said, nominations for the candidates for president is now open.
I nominate Diana.
A nomination, seconded.
Second.
Diana.
I accept the nomination, thank you. Thank you, Lindy.
Oh my gosh, you're so welcome.
This is nice.
Question.
Will you be returning this next year?
I am not seeking any offices in the GPSC next year, no. Well, I'll be here next year. However, I am not seeking any positions as an officer or graduate council representative in the graduate professional.
That's gonna be a question.
If you are interested in a conversation about that, more than entertain it, apart from a public forum. I saw a hand. Or was I imagining things? I'm going to say I was imagining things.
Oh, for me?
I don't know.
Just the way you're looking at it.
It's just probably like the stroke coming on. Not seeking office in the graduate professions. We got this on YouTube. Have nominations again for these officers in the next meeting. So additional nominations for president will be on our old business prior to the nominations being closed in our March 24th meeting. It's at the bottom here. Yeah, it's March 24th. That's part of the reason I started adding that at the bottom, was so that I knew what the next meeting was. Reference. All right, moving on to the next item, nominations of candidates for vice president for administrative affairs. You want me to shuffle papers here? Oh, I gotta read the position description. The Vice President for Administrative Affairs is the Administrative and Chief Financial Officer of GPSC. GPSC is responsible for the certification of all council representatives, chairing GPSC's meetings in the President's absence or at the President's request. The Vice President for Administrative Affairs shall maintain in good order a current record of GPSC financial affairs, provide GPSC with regular financial reports, and keep a record of all official meetings and all other GPSC files and records. Give me one more second, so I can shuffle. I can only hope that shows up on the video. Vice Presidents shall receive a quarter-time graduate assistantship at the minimum appropriate level approved by the graduate school. With this said, I'll open nominations of candidates for Vice President for Administrative Affairs.
I would like to nominate Adrian Long.
My second.
Nomination seconded. Adrian. Accepted.
I'd like to nominate you.
My second.
Nomination Caleb has been seconded.
I accept.
I would like to nominate Adrian.
I'm sorry?
I would like to nominate Adrian, sorry, because I messed up.
Adrian? Yeah, Adrian, we have nomination that has been seconded and accepted.
I thought it was good.
So, we will note the good council members' support of said nomination.
Right.
See no additional nominations at this time. Move on to the next item of business. Our next item on this agenda item, nominations of candidates for Vice President for Graduate School Affairs. The Vice President for Graduate School Affairs shall be the official liaison between the GPSC and the graduate school, communicating with all areas of academic affairs. Vice President for Graduate School Affairs shall research and report on issues as required by the President or the Council. Vice President for Graduate School Affairs further serves as a resource base for all graduate and professional students by keeping abreast issues under consideration by the graduate school and all other issues affecting graduate students. Vice President for Graduate School Affairs will meet regularly with the Dean of the graduate school. The Vice President for Graduate School Affairs serves as a member and de facto chair of the GPSC between GPSC and the Graduate Council. The representatives shall present GPSC with resolutions, bills, and opinions as necessary to protect the interests of the graduate students as needed, independent of the Vice President for Graduate School Affairs. So there's our bit about council representatives. And then the last bit, Vice President shall receive a quarter-time graduate assistantship at the minimum appropriate level approved by the graduate school. With this said, open nominations of candidates for the Vice President for Graduate School Affairs.
I nominate OJ.
Nomination for OJ. Seconded. OJ.
Respectfully declined.
Respectfully declined.
I nominate Nicholas.
I second.
Nomination for Nicholas. Nomination seconded. Nomination accepted.
Oh, it's up.
I nominate Caleb.
Nomination of Caleb. Nomination seconded.
Report back.
Seeing no further nominations at this time, we'll move to the next item under this agenda item, nomination of candidates for graduate council representative. I wish there was a better paragraph for this. I'll continue to research, but I don't think that there is. So, ad-lib it a little under Article 3 of the Constitution, for which there are 4 positions to be elected. GPSC graduate council representatives are charged with serving as liaisons between GPSC and the graduate council. The representatives shall present GPSC with resolutions, bills, and opinions as necessary to protect the interests of graduate students as needed, independent of the Vice President for Graduate School Affairs. Graduate Council representatives will be required to deliver a report concerning the activities of their Graduate Council committees at each scheduled GPSC meeting. Graduate Council representatives who do not attend 2 consecutive Graduate Council meetings or arrange to send a proxy will be presumed to have relinquished said position. The GPSC president will send a written letter as notification of the representative's termination as Graduate Council representative. Graduate Council representatives who do not attend 2 consecutive GPSC meetings or arrange to send a proxy will be presumed to have relinquished said position. The GPSC president will send a written letter as notification of the representative's termination as the Graduate Council representative. The former representative may seek reappointment to that position by appealing in writing to the GPSC Executive Board prior to the next regularly scheduled GPSC meeting. With this said, I open nominations of candidates for Graduate Council representatives.
I would like to nominate Matthew Gunn.
Nomination of Matthew Gunn. Second. Nomination seconded. Nomination accepted.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to nominate Nicholas.
Nomination for Nicholas. Second.
You can do both. You can take nomination for both.
Second. Nomination seconded. Nomination accepted.
I'll accept the nomination.
It's usually a smart play.
Yeah.
Just
in case.
To appear on the ballot for any said position, remember one must have been nominated, nomination seconded, and accepted. Otherwise, one does not appear written on the ballot. And remember then from last meeting, every office is on a separate ballot. So we didn't go over balloting this evening. We will go over it more thoroughly in the next meeting. But we will have a separate time for speeches, campaigning, however you want to talk about it, for the office of the president, and an actual balloting explicitly just for that election. And those candidates count that, make a determination on the outcome, and move on to the vice president for administrative affairs and down the line. So each election and slate of candidates is a separate and distinct slate. To appear on any and or all of those ballots, one must be nominated and seconded and accept said nomination for each and every ballot one is interested in appearing. Obviously, you can only be successfully elected to one of these, perhaps. Any further nominations? Yes.
I nominate Andrew Drummond.
Nomination for Andrew Drummond, made and seconded.
Second.
I nominate OJ.
Second.
Nomination and second for OJ.
That's second.
Accepted?
Someone has said before.
Everyone's very excited.
I nominate Caleb.
Second.
Nomination and second for Caleb. Accepted?
I nominate Adrian Long. It's good to have your name above just.
Second.
Nomination and second, Adrian Long.
And I apologize. I feel so bad. remind me of your name. Yes.
Yeah.
Jeff, that's right, because I was actually the one that said I suggested that you be on this committee. So you should get Jeff the street, and then it just blanked out. I would like to nominate you for that. Jeff.
Nomination and second for Jeff on graduate council representative. Second. Thank you. Nomination accepted.
We got a lot of seconds.
Thank you, but I have to respectfully decline.
A very emotional video.
I nominate Ryan.
I accept.
Nomination. Second and accept. I mean, a voting member can accept and thereby second and or also nominate themselves.
Oh, it's good when the sport, you can have a board. Yeah.
Well, that's a question.
Absolutely.
So is that four in addition to the people that are on it right now, or is it we have 4 spots?
We have 4 spots.
Yeah. We have 4 spots, 5 counting the vice president for graduate school affairs. So we elect through our own methods, according to the graduate school operating paper that governs the graduate council. We elect through our own methods 5 graduate and professional student representative members to graduate council. And so the way that we do so within our own body is one of those 5 is our vice president for graduate school affairs, and then the additional 4 are explicitly graduate council representatives.
And
that
I
makes
would
up our
also
5.
just clarify that also if you sit on an executive position on GPSC, so if you're the president or the vice president of administrative affairs, you would not be able to be listed as a graduate council rep.
Yes. No further nominations?
Are you interested in being a grad council rep?
I'll second.
I'll save it for next time. I'll save that nomination for next time. You think about it.
Seeing no further nominations, we'll move on from this item of business. We will have nominations for all of these offices again in our next meeting, and at which, after that item of business, nominations for these offices will be closed. And so that will be the last opportunity to appear as a candidate for any of the positions on the written ballot. And then we'll have a prefacing overview of the election night procedures upon the close of nominations, just to make sure everybody's aware prior to going into that election meeting. Any additional questions, or we will go to what? Office reports? Cool. All right. Thank you, everyone. All right. Report from GPSC Vice President for Graduate School Affairs.
I actually don't have much because I had the announcements last week and we still haven't had another meeting. So really, I just have literally nothing. Nothing to report. Yeah, I'm here for all of you. Yeah, right. This is the right rule, right?
She's like the longest one.
I
so
do know when I'm like
know.
blah, blah, blah. Exactly, you're right. Today, because it was long last
Right along. Also don't really have much report that's not new from last week. Just wanted to kind of give some reminders that we do have our organization workshop that's going to be happening at the end of the month. I was waiting to kind of get that flyer going. I got it, but I had to make a last minute change, so I couldn't make them printed out for this meeting. But that is, the information is available on our GPSC website. I will give you fair warning if you are going to be interested in that. That is the workshop with Kevin Purcell. It's called the organization workshop. We allow up to 50 people. It's going to be happening on Friday, March 27th. The workshop itself is 3 hours long. And if you are, as a reminder, he was one of the head honchos at Microsoft, worked directly under Bill Gates and trying to figure out human systems within the work environment, as well as organizational psychology and how to help find healthier methods of working together in any organization. So it's certainly a valuable workshop that people would pay hundreds of dollars to take. So I encourage if you're interested to sign up because the spots are limited. So if you go onto the website now, you can actually link on there RSVP for that. The whole outline for the day is that we'll have morning refreshments as well as networking from 8 to 9 as people get settled and signed up. We'll have the 3-hour workshop with breaks, and then there'll be a network opportunity afterwards starting at noon for people to learn. I do know that he's going to be announcing that to some other groups on campus. So I'd imagine that I already have people emailing me with interest, and it hasn't even been like fully released yet. So just a warning for if you're in this room, I would sign up like or if you can, or at least during this spring break, because he's going to be announcing it to your group on Thursday, and he's expecting that 23 to 25 people from that group are going to sign up. Another office on campus found out about it and wants the whole work staff to be a part of it. So that's potentially another 5 to 10 people there. So I want the people in this room who want to take advantage of that to take advantage of it first. And then we'll be announcing it to USG so that they can let their constituents know. But yeah, I do imagine that it will fill up. So sign up if you can. Now, as far as budget reports go, same as last time. So events, with all that we had allocated last time, we now have 4,125 remaining. With CDRAs, and I apologize, I got kind of caught up in some few other things. But that's going to be, so I don't have the exact number on that, but the estimated remaining is closer to 5,000. I think I announced that same amount last time, because I do have some that are pending in my pending box, so I can't remember the exact total. Another thing to keep in mind too is that this month we also have the Day of Giving, so that's going to be tomorrow. So whether it is for your own department or whatever it might be, GPSC also has a link that you can donate to. And so if you can help us promote that on your page, that's probably the best thing. So on your social media, if you want to let people know how to support GPSC and or anything on campus, that's going to be starting, I think, tomorrow at 6 a.m. is when the clock starts ticking. When they take donations, it's a 24-hour clock that it's going to go and tick, and that you can have that contribution listed under the Day of Giving. Events will happen in the library, so if you kind of want to be part of events and see what's happening, so in the Morris Library from 9 to 3, primarily from 9 to 2, is when the bulk of events are. So if you pop in there, you know, and just kind of see the energy of the Day of Giving. But the link to our donation page is also on our website under events. So it's our highlighted event. That's that for me, really. Yes.
All right. I got out, I believe, an early version of the report. I had made a few additions to this report since then. One item that was interesting that it is in the Daily Egyptian, the new president, Dr. Mahoney, signed the CEO Action for Diversity and Inclusion Pledge, pretty much the first day of work. Daily Egyptian, Edwardsville Intelligence here have articles on this. It hasn't been updated with the system website yet, which is curious, but I'm sure it's coming. And then in the updated report, I actually have it linked into the pledge itself, so that you can check out what's in there. Let's see. I got a email bump, which I imagine everybody else did as well, from the Office of the Chancellor about COVID-19 or coronavirus. Did everyone else get that email?
Yep.
And that there's the new Student Health Services website on it that includes just about risk prevention, Carbondale's response, and program travel. That is all contained on the Student Health Services website. So please check that out if you have any questions. That'll be in the updated report. Also include a little blurb about the visit we had from the governor to the campus, announcing the partnership that we have now with the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services. Illinois University Springfield, our School of Medicine, and now also SIU Carbondale, using the School of Social Work for a simulation training and retraining center for field workers and other staff at the Illinois ECFS. It was a pretty big deal. We got the link story and the updated version for the news article in the Daily Egyptian on that. Again, SIU Day of Giving. We are participating in that. Come and check it out. We participated in this last year. We got the link to the news article press release from the university. Student trustee election. The election packets are now out and petitions are active. The ballot petitions are due March 18th. I believe that's the Wednesday after we return from spring break. And then the additional information on the rest of that. We don't have a board meeting until late April. With the student trustee election, I'm glad I bolded and I italicized this. We have one thing that I wanted to ask the council is whether or not we want to extend to those yet to be determined candidates an invitation to our GPSC meeting April 14th to provide those candidates the opportunity to address our council and or respond to any questions. The election results are announced April 15th, the afternoon thereafter. I believe voting begins actually the morning of that April 14th and continues until the midday April 15th, if I'm not mistaken. So that was something I wanted to run by council, see if there was an interest in doing that. Any else candidates come by? Any immediate thoughts?
Support. We certainly have a tradition of doing that, so
Yeah.
it's good.
That's what I was thinking.
I think that's a possibility.
Okay. Yeah, I will reach out with, we have our election, student trustee election board members, as well as I don't know what they call it. Yeah, I'll work with the office to get that coordinated so that invite is communicated. Next faculty senate meeting is after spring break, March 17th. So going on to our announcements and our business. Please remember yours. I'm pumped about the Flyers because I don't know little wins, but make sure to share those. They'll be going out on the social media, Facebook, Twitter. Thanks. Sorry, it's a long case for me. And it's just hopefully the service awards. I'll have another flyer coming out here soon. If you want printed versions of this to share, send us an email or reach out or come by the office or what have you. Happy to help provide those so that you can share with persons. A little blurb there about the organization workshop on 27th. And the report, again, a blurb about student creative activities and research forum. The big one is you all should have gotten now the updated flyer that is the call for abstracts themselves, as well as the call for judges, which have the links for those submissions, as well as the scheduling of the judges. So you should have that PDF, and we'll continue to share and promote that. Again, if that's something you want some flyers for, you can reach out to us and Office of the Vice Chancellor of Research. Abstracts are due March 20th. And we passed tonight the resolution for the authorization of that funding from the costs. Thank you for that. Our elections are again coming up April 14th. We started the nomination process this evening, and you have a link to the bylaws. That's what I'm trying to read from to make sure that we are covering all bases on that. Constitutional Committee, this was a big item for me. So we've been working on the revisions to the Constitution and anticipate work on the bylaws again during spring break. The plan to have before the council proposals for the Constitution and bylaws revisions, amendments on March 24th, satisfying a March 24th first reading requirement and then an April 14th second reading requirement. Provides for the opportunity to vote on the amendments April 14th, coinciding with elections, and also to take up that business in April 28th meeting, the last council business meeting, in the instance that we wish to table it. Policies are a matter that is to be determined. Possibly this matter may be deferred and or settled according to if and when the process and or policy governing such policies are passed by amendment and that process would be to be determined. Essentially, if we pass amendments to the resolution and the Constitution and or bylaws, the policies that have not been otherwise adopted by that point would then be governed by a different system depending on the adoption date of those amendments. So it becomes like this weird timeline jumping thing, which could potentially be the subject of a really, really dry, nerdy, weird screenwriting. But anyways, moving on. Policies, I've already read that. So the revised bylaws, constitutional outlines, authority, organization, yeah, basically what I just explained. So the headlines of the revisions under progress. The articles of the Constitution, actually I think the elections are going to go into meetings, I forgot to eliminate that part. Basically a preamble, then the name, then the purpose, the membership, then Article 4 on council itself, then Article 5 on council boards, and Article 6 on council committees, Article 7 on officers, Article 8 on meetings and elections, Article 9 on bylaws, policies, and provisions, and then the last article on the amendments to that Constitution. Now the bylaws are still something we're fleshing out, like I said, that being the article structure of the Constitution. The key amendments and revisions to that being membership classes. We have our program reps for all grad degree, grad certificates, but carving out a constituency caucus reps category for things like umbrella organizations, college councils, inter-constituency councils, and the like, and then continuing our at-large representatives. We're adding in particular an article that outlines council. So in our existing Constitution, no part of it or its bylaws outline the purpose, the membership, the organization, the authority, or the accountability of council. And so that's something in particular our city is taking under interest in actually defining better for everyone, the purpose and structure and the authority of the council itself. And then the revisions and or the creation of articles on boards and committees is another area. So some boards and committees have language in our current Constitution and or bylaws. However, we've identified some areas where we can improve and update that to fit the current commission. Whether that is across the purpose, membership, organization, authority, accountability needs that we are currently seeing. So we have we're anticipating 4 boards with election memberships, so our executive board, finance and appropriations, which is a subtle renaming of the fee allocation board, the academic affairs board, which is something we sort of started informally with graduate council reps and the BPGSA, and then a council judiciary or judicial board as a formalization of something that's in the bylaws but not in the Constitution right now for grievance hearings. And then 4 committees with elected chairs and appointed members, campus and community affairs, communication and council member affairs, constituency and student affairs, and professional development and programming. And then it goes on from there to describe a little bit of those key elements. I will forego that because it is in the written report. But I wanted to get a little bit of an overview just so that some of that starts getting out there, put it in writing. You can take a look at that report. You can ask questions. So we'll be working on that, pretty much progress as we speak kind of thing, and working diligently over the break, trying to get that caught up for our first meeting in March after the break. So we had recently a meeting with the new SIU system president, Dr. Capone, with our GPSC executive board, as well as USG's executive board. This Monday. It was a good meeting. All of us were there. We discussed outline of things, more or less how we came to be at Carbondale, why we chose to come, things that need to change at SIU, or things that need to improve, what's great about SIUC, and then just a general question for discussion. Discussion I thought was engaged and substantive. Dr. Mahoney mostly listened and didn't ask much. Diana made a great pitch for the great things GPSC is doing for all of our students. It was a great moment. We gave our plug for participation in data giving. We'll see if that really pays off, which would be fantastic. Dr. Mahoney made a reference to his standing practice while at previous universities to invite students to reach out to his office and schedule lunch with them. Which, as it was explained to us, quite literally you can like email his office, so I think it was president at siu.edu, and say, hey, here's the group of grad students from my unit. We'd love to have lunch with you, Mr. President. And then his office will work to actually schedule that with you to make it happen. And have lunch. It's something that is actually in the practice of doing, which is pretty awesome. And so that is an opportunity for everyone. So if he enjoys that, it's an opportunity to, stay connected with students, know what's on our minds, know what's going on as far as the student experience and the student perspective. And then for the time being, he's actually here without his family, so apparently the door might be open for dinner as well. Maybe he likes Domino's Pizza, and happens to be on one tremendous rabbit hole on YouTube. Come by one of our meetings. GPSC, we will be communicating a follow-up. I had an additional meeting as part of the constituency heads meeting with Dr. Mahoney today. Very similar structure, much of the similar things as far as some of the stuff that's under discussion. An interesting note he made that we talked about was that he went back 25 years, and the current search for a chancellor, if I remember or noted this correctly, is the 14th chancellor that SIUC will have had in 25 years. So in the sense of stability and a lack of consistent leadership at the university, which is a very common theme, but oftentimes persons are even talking about that in the context of the last 5, 10, 15 years. And he's saying in the meeting today, he's like, really, let's go back 25 years. Definitely someone that's doing their homework. Oh, there was an interesting point. That's what this is. Under that, the idea of came up in the course of the constituencies meeting today with Dr. Mahoney. The idea that the faculty and staff really at the university versus say like administrators in the positions have really been the stability at SIUC, whether that's in that full 25-year span of time or otherwise something that's more abbreviated, since many of those that reach executive levels of our administration often find the exit sooner than later, which is very interesting. Again, discussion was engaged and substantive. From the big picture, the vision at the system level to really even more micro phenomena, whether that's things like promotion decisions, distinctive programs, the actual attendees that are invited or have a seat in meetings, for instance, like our graduate council student representation, or like faculty senate president actually being in cabinet meetings. Pretty micro level stuff. Keynotes for improvement areas that came up across the conversation with all those parties. The idea that we need to act as a system, that we need some stability, we need to improve our community relations and reciprocity as a university, and engaging with the community. Ideas about who we are, our identity, how well we provide access to students that we need to provide access, focusing on our student service and who we serve, having a shared vision, communicating that vision, and really sort of proactively going after goals and meet needs in a consistent, responsive way. Moving on from that, we talked about in our meeting, and we talked about in council previously about trying to invite and welcome Dr. Mahoney in some capacity to either with our council or with USG or for basically a student meeting generally. There was something that came up mostly under Brian's comment. It sounds like there's some ongoing work already for trying to schedule at least one, if not two, campus conversations of some variety with Dr. Mahoney. And so I figured as a part of that general effort, we'll just continue to try and coordinate and figure out exactly what those plans are and make sure that it kind of checks the boxes that we have for what we want out of that kind of a meeting. And so if there's any comments or anything apart from the discussions we've already had, let me know, and I'll communicate those as we try to coordinate it. For the most part. Yeah.
Thank you. One
Yes.
question. Dr. Mahoney, doesn't he only have like about 6 months he spends out on campus, and then he goes on to that Bridgeville campus?
Yes.
So is there like a stress to kind of like get him in the sooner the better?
My understanding is that he is going to be here in the fall, at least for a substantial portion of it, because he's scheduled to teach a co-teach a course with someone else. I think it's in the sociology department.
So this is sports history or something.
So he is going to be here still in the fall, at the very least, to teach the course. But yeah, I think it's worthwhile to try and have these meetings in this semester. And that's my understanding, either in the case of Brian as well as in the conversations I've had with the USG president about trying to schedule something so that, yeah, there's that introduction this spring semester. further comments, questions? Move on to committee reports. I have no committee reports that were submitted or requested time. Any?
I have a real quick.
Yeah.
So the Chancellor Search Advisory Committee, I was a good voice, so I was like, we did do screening interviews last week, and the finalists were selected. So the finalists are supposedly being contacted this week to see if they remain interested and will come to campus. And then they should be on campus after spring break. So be looking for that. I do think there's certainly some quality candidates in there. So I would definitely encourage you to go to any open forums that are happening. Because at this point, the search committee is kind of like out of our hands at this point, and it's going to be in the hands of all the people who attend the forums. And they're actually doing actual metrics from the people's feedback from the forums to see like percentages of it, this, that. So please make sure that you go, and that if you go, that you're filling out the paperwork that you're given during those forums. So definitely go. I can't remember if I'm allowed to tell.
Standard practice is a minimum of 3,
Yes.
and then sometimes as many as 5.
Yes, it is usually 3 to 5, yes. But again, they have to accept, so we have to wait to find out. Once all the candidates that we've invited have accepted, or the amount that have accepted, there'll be an official announcement, and once that announcement is out, all candidates will have access to like all of the materials, so you can like look at their information before you go for it.
This is something that, as I get word on, I definitely will share that with our email listserv, as well as on likely the Facebook and on our Twitter account. Those links. Any other reports? Seeing none, we have good of the order. Any announcements from anyone?
GAU is hosting a series of films this month. So if you go to the GAU website, which is gaunited.org, you can get a listing of when those calendar dates are. They're free to the public. And what do you know? They're films about unions. So there is a theme there. I believe the next one will be in, the final one will be in Guyan Auditorium. That's the last week of March. That's going to be a Friday showing. And then there is one movie coming out of spring break, and that will be in the, I know it's near the museum. I can't remember the exact.
It's the auditorium that's bigger.
Auditorium Fader, which I believe is near the museum. I could be wrong.
It is.
Yeah.
It's like right on the other.
Yeah.
Hallway.
Fourth or fifth week.
I just walked to where it is.
And that's available if you are interested in or want to support the union or get some information. Because the last showing will also be seen kind of as a general, with that will also be kind of a general body meeting. So there'll be food and things like that. You can get some more information on what's coming up, including the elections, which happen in April for the Graduate Assistants United.
Sorry, you say the elections are in April?
I know there's a free symposium too for Women's History Month. So he also part of like the Women's Empowerment Network. Women's network empowerment for women. Yes, yes. But there's something going on over at Touch of Nature, and I believe so if you are interested in kind of networking with some women on campus, feel free to look that up as well.
That's Friday and Saturday, March 20th and 21st, Redefining Success Women's Leadership Retreat. The Touch of Nature, $15 registration, free covers transportation, activities, and meals, register at, etc. Then the first one on Women's History Month, the announcements, as well as there's some other opportunities in there. For deadlines. Let's see, there's the application. Network reception.
Yep.
Oh, this is it.
As a different.
Yeah.
But I mean, do go into the website that kind of just lists all the happenings for Women's History Month. I know that there is also some potential for like research awards stuff there too. If it's focused on gendered studies, I believe. So there's lots of things happening in the month of March.
Any other announcements? Or take motion to adjourn? Council so wishes.
Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn.
Motion seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, motion passes. Thank you, everybody.
Woo! It's a really good screen. And so we're all thinking,
Oh my God.
all day. That's what all day, it's like, is it Friday yet?
Yeah. Also, like, because I started commuting, I realized how trashy my car got super fast.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
It takes forever.